to say. Brushed fleece. So brushed fleece is actually one that came in Rowan in my time. This is one that I developed with the team. When we develop a yarn, it's not simply myself or Sharon, the brand director's choice. We actually go back to the team. We talk about what is needed. Do excuse me, my internal phone's ringing. We'll just have to let that ring. And because actually the team is full of knitters, so actually we think it's really keen that we go back to knitters and we actually share what they want and actually see what they need. So brush fleece was exactly that. Basically, the premise of this was to kind of look for something that was a bit like big wool in the chunkiness of it, but then it actually has this soft roving color through it too. It doesn't knit to that stage and it's not a chunky yarn, but it actually looks quite like it too. So brush fleece is 65% wool, 35% alpaca and 10% polyamide. What you'll find is when we blend fibers together, somebody's not on mute. Shelley, could you put your iPad on mute, please? Thank you. So when we blend fibers together like that, it actually polyamide together, so it actually holds it together and joins it together correctly. And it's just a way that when you're putting two natural fibers together, you need something to help it bind. So what you'll notice in brushed fleece is it actually has this slight marl effect on it. And that's the way it works. So the two fibers rubbing together, the wool and the sorry, my phone's ringing, which is putting me off. The merino and the alpaca rubbing together gives you that different color effect. It takes dye slightly differently, so you get darker and light patches within a yarn. And that's key for Rowan, playing with the natural fiber and playing with the way it dyes. And I'm showing you some lovely menswear stuff. I don't actually have those designs myself. I have some behind me, but not in brush fleece. Again, brush fleece is it's something that's really easy to knit. My mum recently knitted both long length cardigans for two of my nieces, and it's a big thumbs up for me if mum likes it, and mum loves it, so that's a good thing. So that was a good one for me. Kid Classic. Now Kid Classic is a bit special. Not that they're not all special. All the Rowan yarns are special, aren't they, Jan? So Kid Classic is lamb.
Yes, David, I was on mute, but yes, they're all special.
Kid Classic is lamb's wool, kid mohair, and polyamide. Again, the polyamide is there when you're combining two natural fibers together. It just gives strength to the wove and strength to the length of it. Kid Classic is another one that's been in the Rowan range for a long, long time. And actually, it is a lot of the Rowan team's favorite yarn, just because of the way it washes and wears, and it knits up so beautifully. And somebody's needing to get hold of me. It's got this soft little haze on it when it knits as well. So you get a knitted fiber, but you get that fiber haze on it too. 70% lamb's wool and 22% kid mohair. For those of you that don't know, lamb's wool doesn't necessarily mean it comes from the small little lamb. It just means that usually the sheep that it's shorn from is under a year old. And that's the way it's counted. So it's a true all-rounder yarn, this for me. It's actually, as I said, a lot of the team's favorite yarn because it's just of all of its qualities. The polyamide gives it the strength, so it does wash and wear really well. But it does work really well for lots of different garments. And it's not so fine that it's a long time to knit, but it actually does, gives you quite a definite fine knitted gauge.
David, could you talk a little bit about how Kid Classic has sort of grown and changed in terms of the palette, and how you guys have sort of navigated that process?
Well, so palette wise, I mean, the palette for Kid Classic is quite large. I mean, it does go up and down. what we do with a palette is we always follow the color trend. So we try to predict what colors are going to be popular 18 months ahead. And that is, we use trend prediction services to do that. And most of the time we get it right. But then also you will all know that Rowan's color palette does tend to be slightly off the standard colors. So, you know, we wouldn't necessarily do a pillar box red. We might do something that's a bit more deep or has a bit more definition in it. And a lot of our color palette is what we call autumnal. I guess you call that fall, but it's that color palette that's slightly off, but it has that deep warmth within the colors. And that does happen certainly through all the autumn winter color palettes. It tends, spring summer tend to be a bit brighter and a bit cleaner looking, but our autumn winter ones tend to have a more autumnal feel, and that is a classic Rowan palette. And what we try to do, particularly in Kid Classic, for example, that has been in the range a long time, is we try to make sure there is a good covering of a palette there. So, you know, there is some blues, there's some reds, there's the neutrals coming in, but there's also, you know, pretty much the standard black and whites, because every palette needs to have a black and white. So within an aged palette like that, what you're trying to do is make sure that there's a rounded full palette. So there's always a selection. So if you love Kid Silk Haze and you only wear blues, they'll, you know, you can go and have a look at the blues that are available in it. And that's the palette journey, if you like.
And you sort of work to make sure the colors match a little bit between palettes too. You know, I noticed that especially as I was looking at designs for Kid Classic, that you see, you know, there are designers holding Kid Classic together with Kid Silk Haze, or even later for spring of next year, a lot of Summer Light Decay and Kid Silk Haze. There must be some planning that happens too, correct?
Well, that's actually a fairly new thing for us, Michael. Thank you for bringing it up. But we've got, so a lot in recent years, designers have started to play with plying yarn up. So they're making their own yarn effectively. Like Summer Light Decay and Kid Silk Haze just makes a beautiful, beautiful knitted fiber. It's just really beautiful and soft. But lots of designers play with different fibers and play with it together in that they put yarns together. So when they started to do that, we have actually started recently to reflect the color palettes so they work across the ranges. So, you know, you have, you know, there's Kid Classic in this color here, but there'll be something that works with that in one of the finer gauges. So Fine Lace or Kid Silk Haze, and you can ply that up together. And that is only something, as I say, we've started in the last couple of years, that actually, when we do the seasonal review and we do the palette review, that the designers have said, well, I would like to have, I don't know, a deeper blue in Kid Silk Haze because I want to ply it with this for an idea I've got. And so it's actually much more becoming a rounder palette across the whole range for Rowan, because actually we're thinking about the whole offering together. And that is really something that's led by the designers wanting those fibers to be able to knit them together. So I'm just flicking through some Kid Silk Haze designs for you. Not Kid Silk Haze, Kid Classic designs for you. Now, we're going on to what is my very special yarn that's very close to my heart. It's called Pure Cashmere. It is 100% cashmere. Now, this one's a little bit special to me because this is a new one. It's 100% hits my wheelhouse and sourcing, because I'm all about fiber. I was raised on a farm. My family are still in farming. So this is where my interest in fiber started. And that's where all my knowledge started. And obviously working for Rowan, that has just grown and grown. So I was raised in Scotland. I am from Edinburgh. MacLeod doesn't hide my Scottishness. So this cashmere fiber actually comes from a Scottish producer. They are in Kinross, and they are on the side of Loch Leven. You can look them up. Their name is Todd and Duncan. We are doing a collaboration with them. Now, Todd and Duncan's tagline is the world's best cashmere. And who am I to disagree with that? It is beautiful, soft, and cool to the touch. When you pick up a true natural fiber yarn, it should be slightly cool, because that's the way natural fibers work. You know, it doesn't take on heat, it keeps it cool. So you just have that soft cotton-like touch to it. So when Todd and Duncan create the cashmere, They have their own closed sourcing, so that it's true sourcing where they can check the actual sourcing, the welfare of the animal, that the farmers are paid, you know, fairly for their price, and that we're getting the best quality in the end as well. It is actually washed using the water from the loch. They take the water out of the loch, they use it in their process, they clean it, and they put it back cleaner than it actually is. Their actual factory is in the middle of a nature reserve. So they are very, very stringently managed for their safety practices, their waste practices. And actually that is what is really key for me. Being a country boy, being brought up on a farm, all that, and looking after the natural environment to do what we do is very key for me. Sustainability and things like that are actually, you know, very close to my heart. So this is pure cashmere. It does knit to 22-30 stitches, and we've got a couple of collections coming out in that too. It is beautiful. It just glides. It's like butter on the needles. It is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. The reason that we went to Todd and Duncan to go and work this yarn together is Sharon, the brand director, did actually knit for various films. She was a knitwear for various films, and she's knitted for Harry Potter and all sorts of things. But she did work on the stage show for Phantom of the Opera. And actually we did have, she knitted in Todd and Duncan cashmere for Phantom of the Opera. And when we were looking for a cashmere, she said, well, this is the best cashmere. Excuse me. But they don't do hand knit. And I said, well, why don't we just go and talk to them? So we did, and they were really keen to work with us. And they produce hand knit yarn for us. And we are the only producer that they produce for. If you've just joined, is that Mary Karen you've just joined? Can I ask you to put your microphone on mute, please? Thank you. And so we are the only one that they produce hand knit yarn for, and we are the only ones that they will produce it for. So it's exclusive. The collaboration between us and Todd and Duncan is exclusive to Rowan. And I'm just showing you some of the new designs that we've got for it. So we've concentrated on some accessories, but we've also done some garments, and very simple and classic cashmere garments that you would expect to see in there. And what we've done with this range is we've actually used the color palette from Todd and Duncan. They have a massive color palette. They have, I don't even know how much they have. They have a room full of swatches of color. It's just massive. I did actually visit the factory. And if you have ever felt cashmere in its raw state before it's spun, it is like touching a cloud. It is just a beautiful, beautiful fiber. So you can see that we've got some cashmere designs here. What we've done with the palette is we've tried to, sorry, jumped a bit too far ahead there. We've tried to concentrate on a really good basic core cashmere palette. So the colors that you would expect to see in there, but also some strong colors too. So there's a red, there's a deep blue, but there is the camels, there's the grays, and there's the the basic color that you would expect to see in a cashmere palette.
David, one question that I just wanted to ask really quickly. So there's obviously some great design like Adore from Lisa Richardson and this new one from Kim Hargraves. Are there other ones that you would kind of suggest as, potential subs for pure cashmere that would sort of work at the same gauge or the same weight?
Well, it works roughly at a DK. So you could look at any of our DKs there. We have like a cotton cashmere in there, which gives you that soft chalk look, but then you could also knit in one of the DK cottons too. Is that what you mean, Michael? Sorry, you broke up in your question.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I was thinking like, alpaca soft DK, or if there are other, that would be, yield the same gauge and the same results,
Alpaca soft DK is a really good one because it does have that natural soft touch too. And it's, it's still a luxury fiber. We only deal in premium fibers. So, cashmere is beautiful, but there is other options to look at there too for the designs. Okay, patina. I don't actually have a ball of patina. So patina is a select yarns for us. That is one that we offer in a limited edition. It's available We say that it'll be available for a full 12 months, but actually, you know, it's the popularity that drives the demand, but it's definitely, you know, we have plenty stock of it. So this is a 46% mohair, 24% nylon, 20% wool, and 10% polyester. Now that is much more polyester and nylon than we would normally do in Rowan. We concentrate on our natural fiber. That's where my knowledge is. That's what we work with. And that's what we work with our spinners to develop ways to use natural fiber in interesting and new techniques. But this one has nylon and polyester in it because it has a touch of sparkle in it. So there's a huge trend for wearing a little hint of sparkle during the day and into nighttime. And actually, this is what patina does. So, I mean, and the shoot that we did for it as well was actually really concentrated on daytime into nighttime wearing. So if you look at the yarn that you've been sent, you can see there is a really a subtle metallic thread through it. And actually that metallic thread behaves slightly differently on each color, because obviously on the more muted palette, the more natural colors, like you can see there, you don't see as much of the sparkle and the metallic thread coming through in the knitted fiber, but on the darker side, you can actually see it a bit more. And actually, so those garments are knitted in the darker shades are a bit more sparkly, shall we say. What we were really keen to do when we bring in sparkle is to remain the Rowan core, so it's still beautiful, soft. A yarn has to have what we call an awe factor. Awe factor is when you pick it up and you go, ooh, oh, that's nice. So, but when you want to bring in a bit of sparkle in there, you quite often lose that because it's nylon, it's a bit harsher, it's a bit crisp. And quite a lot of the sparkly yarns that are on the market are a bit too crisp for my liking, and they're a bit too crisp for the brand. But what we've done here is, because we blended it with mohair, we managed to keep that softness, and the way it's blended together gives you that little bit of sparkle, but it's not too much either. So there's, in the design here, there's some big throws and some beautiful shawls, etc. But we have really good basic cardigans that, you know, as well.
David, I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit more about, you know, the difference between a Rowan yarn and the core line versus a select. You know, how do selects generally work?
So core lines, if something is added to the Rowan core, it means it's there for however long it's got, but, you know, a long, long life usually, because that's the stuff that we keep in stock and we do all the time. Selects is more where we want to add something special. So, I mean, a yarn with a sparkle patina would not be something that we actually add into our core range, but for no other reason than it actually answers an immediate trend. And actually, if you look at Rowan core, there is lots and lots and lots of yarns in there, but they're all really good basic natural fiber yarns. If you've just joined, can I ask you to put your speaker on mute, please? Thank you. So if you, and then we take the chance to add selects, and that is where we add something a bit special. So for this season, we added patina because it had that sparkle in there too, and it has a time life. I mean, it may come back as a select, or it may even be added to the core range if it's really popular, it works. But the idea is that it's a limited time and we offer something really, really special. We also offered a chunky cashmere this season, and that is that is like knitting in it with air as well. And it's just the way it's worked together, and it's the way it's developed and spun together. And it just lets us bring a little bit of special in each season and add a little bit of excitement into the range.
And so really sort of one and done production runs. And so, you know, there's a bit of urgency in being able to get it, just because you know, when a color is gone, it's probably gone forever.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, when people see that selects label, it's really, you know, it's really a call to action to, you know, check it out and see what's going to be right for the season.
Yeah. I mean, we tend to order quite a large stock up front of it. So we do have quite a bit of it, but it is time limited for sure. So if you love it, don't, you know, buy it because it might not be there the next time you go back in. Merino Aria So this is a new core range one for us. Here it is. So what's happening in fiber development and yarn spinning is the spinners and yarn houses are getting a lot more and more clever with how they use new spin techniques. So, you know, chainette constructions, different twists, and different techniques and different colorways. And what that allows us to do at Rowan is use natural fiber, but still manage to get you a good length on the ball because we're using the fiber the best way that we can. Also, chainette tends to be slightly better in a knit environment because when you make a chainette, it actually has a little bit of movement in the yarn. So if you do that with what you've got, you can see there is a little bit of movement in there. And what that little bit of movement allows us to do is actually the yarn relaxes back into a stitch as you knit it. So it works really well for texture and it works really well for color and color work. So it relaxes back in, fills the stitch, gives you a much smoother and neater looking knitted fiber. It also means that natural fibers behave better because there's less pilling, less rubbing, and the way that it's actually constructed means that it's going to last and wash and wear and just, you know, it's going to hold its shape better because the construction of the yarn is stronger, if you like. And it's just new developments coming out in spinning all the time. All the time, there's new stuff that we see every year, and that's the good thing about it because it lets us use the beautiful fibers in new and interesting ways. So it's a 93% merino wool. Again, all our merino is mulesing free, and a 7% polyamide. Oh, sorry. And the polyamide again is there because we're actually, it's the new spin techniques there, and it's a chainette construction, and it's just the way it's built and a technique to do that. Our general guide is that I don't like to go above 15% of any fiber like that, just if it's only there for construction reasons, because I think you at some point it tips it over into something other than a Rowan yarn. So Merino Aria, it's actually named with our Italian spinners because they came to see us. Oh, 2 years ago now, way before all the lockdowns came. And they said, well, aria is air in Italian. So it's merino air is what we called it, but basically using the Italian for it. And as you can see, the designs that we've added there for it, again, it takes stitch really well. It takes texture really well because of the construction and the chainette construction within it. It's like a really long net. If you look at it and have a little play around with it, you can see that there's loops back in as well. And that actually is the chainette construction.
So David, I wanted to ask really quickly. So, you know, obviously you sort of have two avenues for design with Rowan. You have, you know, Quail Studio in the magazine and sort of a core design range that you work with. And then you also have designers that I guess you contract with, like Kim Hargraves. There are a bunch of new designs out from Kim Hargraves this season in her book Cope and Winter, which are just coming to shelves in the US now. Can you sort of talk a little bit about how you work with designers differently?
So the way that Rowan works with designers in lots of different ways is we have a bank of designers that we call retained, which means they only work for us. And that is Lisa, Martin, Story, Georgia Farrell, Kaif and Brandon, they only work for us within hand knit. Erica, Knight, you know, so we've got those core and they're what I call our core designers. And I talk to them a lot. We talk weekly, if not fortnightly. But then we have a pool of designers around us that actually are hand knit designers out in the knit world. And we talk to them and we pull in design and we put out specs and design briefs every season for them to fulfill it in. Now, apart from that, there is lots of other people that are Rowan people as well, like Kim Hargreaves that Michael just mentioned. Kim is a former head designer at Rowan before my time and left to work on her own design house. And so this is what Kim does too. So again, I speak to her, I don't know, maybe twice every season. So 4 times a year, we talk about yarn, we talk about the new yarn, what she's got coming. So she's very much with us and works closely with us. And there is other designers out there that in the same way too, like Gemma Weston's a designer that was a former Rowan employee. Marie Wallen was a former head designer. Yeah, there's a few out there, and it's actually one of the great flexibilities at Rowan is that we actually pull this design from lots of different places. We are led by trends and we're led by fashion, but we're not fashion forward, we're fashion reflective, because obviously that's the way it works. And it's really interesting that we have all this external input into our design output, if you like. And that's key for Rowan is our designers, and we name our designers very openly. And it's a key cornerstone of the brand. And they all have input into the yarns and the palettes as well. You know, obviously we do certain colors with Kaif's got his own color palettes going on. Kim has added colors in before. Georgia, our new designers, added colors for her new collections this last season as well. Soft boucle, another new one fairly recently. Now we've had boucles before, and in my opinion, they've never been as nice as this one. And it's nothing to do with the fact that I developed this soft boucle. I'm very much a believer in naming a yarn exactly what it is. So you'll see that there's a merino DKs and soft boucle. It's called soft boucle because it is a beautiful soft boucle. It is the 45 cotton, 23 alpaca, 22 wool, and 10% polyamide. 10% poly because it's a boucle and you need to look after the construction to give it some strength. Cotton is there because you need to have that cotton longer length fiber. So cotton's a longer staple length fiber and that needs to be there because when you work in a boucle, you can see it works a completely different way. The construction of the yarn, it doesn't work along the way, it works round it, if you like, and it gives you that fluff. So you need to have the longer length fiber so it maintains its strength within it as well. So what we've done with boucle is we've actually kept the palette really tight, but they're because either boucle is maybe not something you would knit a full garment with, but is happy in the accessory market too. Although there is a big trend for this teddy bear coat, which is, we've actually done a copy of that. I think Michael's probably knitting one for himself. Are you? No?
I actually am, I love it very much.
So it's alpaca and merino, and it's that beautiful soft, you get that texture without doing a texture stitch, if you like. And you can see there's the
and
teddy bear.
Michael's starting a knit along on the teddy bear coat.
Yes.
You're
doing one.
It's starting on Monday. I'll be doing it through my social media accounts, and when we see the teddy bear coat here in just a minute, it's really fantastic. I was able to make it in 4 days. It's right there on the left. It's knit with soft boucle held double, and so it's a very fast sweater. But I'll be sort of putting up instruction all over the course of the next 4 weeks, and hope folks join us.
So, I mean, the trick with a boucle, and Michael, I'm sure, talk about this in his knit along, is actually you need to knit it fairly open, so you actually give the yarn air to breathe, so you actually get that soft, and it still remains a beautiful workable fiber. I think what has happened in the past is some people tend to knit it a bit too tight because they want it to feel like a knitted fiber. But actually, if you knit it a bit more open, you do get that really soft, beautiful effect coming through.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really impressed with, just having knit with it before, is how much unlike a traditional boucle it is. Traditional boucles are, very much this sort of loop and sort of nubbly texture, and soft boucle has a lot more air in the outer fibers, and so it's a lot more difficult to knit into a boucle the same way you normally would, if the loops were a little bit tighter, and the fiber is a lot less fussy. And so it knits just like any other standard yarn, but the fabric is just so light and warm.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was it. That was my last yarn. So I take it there was no questions while I was talking. I haven't seen anything in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing, and then we can go back to the big screen and see the chat window again. Okay.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions or any specific things they'd like to ask David?
One new message about the chunky cashmere.
Yes, it's me. Hi.
Hello, Claude.
Is there some patterns? I don't see anything, or I missed something.
We haven't shown. We're not doing the chunky cashmere tasting today, so we haven't shown you any designs within it.
Okay.
But you can look on the Knit Rowan website, and
Okay.
they'll show you some the yarn and some of the patterns available in it too.
But is it the same as? Is it as the pure cashmere?
No,
Or difference?
it's a different yarn totally. It's much chunkier. It's from an Italian source. The pure cashmere is spun in Britain.
Okay.
It's a completely different yarn, but it is beautiful.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, and all the patterns for the chunky cashmere are free downloads on the Knit Rowan website and on Ravelry. And there's a lot of nice 1 skein and 2 skein projects.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Was there any other questions that came up during there wasn't any questions that came up during the yes. Who's saying it's like an I-cord? Barbie, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what Merino Aria is like. It looks like you've knitted a very fine I-cord.
I'm scanning down through as well, David.
Yeah, and Michael's put some links onto free patterns there and too. Rebecca's put the link to Todd and Duncan, which is amazing. So Todd and Duncan is one of those things that actually the factory is only 3 miles from my grandmother's house. So it's one of those very special things where you just start to develop something and then it starts to feel like everything's coming in a line and it all starts to click in. It's a very strange thing when you're developing something and it all starts to.
David, I have something I'd like you to maybe comment on a little bit. So I think it might be interesting to the people on this call how you and Sharon search out new yarns, the process. You would go to see the mills in Italy, maybe a little bit about that, and then how it's happening today due to the lockdown.
So how we get new yarns is actually, we work with spinners all over the world, and we do go and see them, and they come to see us. And when I say that we work with them, we actually do, because the spinners will turn up and say what they've developed, but we quite often go, yeah, but we're looking for something that's, I don't know, a bit more hair with a bit of silk in it. And so we give them suggestions and work to develop with them together. There are lots of shows around the world that actually where spinners can show their wares to you. The biggest is in Florence, Italy, and it's called Pitti Filate, and it's where all the spinners come and they show you all the yarns that they've worked on. I am very, very fortunate that I get to go to that stand show now, and you get to walk around and see them and talk to them and find out what they've been doing. For those of you that have not been, Florence is the most beautiful city. It is amazing. But I have to say that it's a busy, but it's a beautiful city. But we actually do go there for work, and that's where you go and meet all the spinners together. And then what we do there is we go around the stands and we see what we want and we talk about what we want to develop. And that's what I call our standard way to develop. But then we have these special things that we do, and that's where we approach people to do collaborations directly. So like the Todd and Duncan for Pure Cashmere, we will just reach out to them. And we're very fortunate that Rowan's a global brand and that it has the recognition that they are happy to talk to us, and they know that we are known for our photography and our beautiful design. And actually, it does open quite a few doors when we say who we're from. But so that's basically how we do it. But actually, we work really well. We quite often have a good idea what we want on a season, because if we're talking for autumn, winter, next year, we're actually looking at yarns. We've already done that, but we're looking at yarns that have a really good sourcing story. So there's stuff coming for autumn winter that where we can actually tell you where it came from, what the farm was, even possibly the name of the sheepdog. And that is really right into my wheelhouse. I really like to be able to follow the sourcing through, follow the true sourcing through of everything through. And that's actually a key thing for Rowan. We only source through recognized channels, and we work with foundations within the different markets. So mohair from South Africa, we work with the Mohair Foundation, and we're very close with them, and they make sure that actually what happens on the farms there and the animals are treated correctly and everything is above board and treated normally. But when you hear all these ghastly stories about all things going wrong, you usually find that those farms are not working through a foundation like that. And that is actually what happens. So that's the way that I make sure that our sourcing is as true and as honest and as it can be.
So there's another question here, David, from Joey. Can you give a little history lesson? Many of us haven't been knitting for eons, so we don't know the history. And is this I'm not sure, is this the history of Rowan or
how you all got together even?
Well, this is one of the big things for us is when you talk about two people that are in the yarn industry, one of my favorite questions quite early on when meeting somebody new within the yarn industry is, what's your story? How did you get there? Because I do not know two people that work in the yarn industry that have come at the same journey at all. They all come at different ways. Some people come through teaching, some people come through retail. I myself I'm a graphic designer. That's what I qualified in. And I joined Rowan as their design room manager many years ago because I was managing the process, and actually had an interest in fiber through my family history. And it's just been allowed to grow and develop. And that's how I ended up being brand manager. It's very, it just happens by osmosis. People are drawn to the knitting world. It's like knit store owners as well. None of them have the same story. They all come at it from different ways. Some of them are hobbyists that just love it. Some of them are actually about, they couldn't get what they wanted in the market, so they set up a store to feed that need themselves, and for a lot of people, it is actually, they have a job that is this, but this yarn store owning or knitting is their creative outlet, and that's what it provides for an awful lot of people. So to say how we've come together is really just how we all end up where we are, and it's just it's like flotsam. We all end up in the knitting world somehow. But Rowan has been going for over 40 years. As I said, I haven't been there all 40. I've only been there like 13. But I've met and worked with some fantastic people, and I've been fortunate enough to work with people that are happy to spend time with me and talk about what they know and share their knowledge. And that is the one underlying thing that I can say about the knit world as well, is it is full of good people doing great things, and just sharing their knowledge and sharing their insight as well. It's for me, it's one of the best worlds to work in, because it's creative, but it's giving and it's joyful as well. Thank you.
David, there was a question about whether there will still be a spring launch with Rowan, even with everything going on, through COVID and so forth. And I don't want to give away too much. I know that there's sort of a stacked release happening over the next 4 months.
Yeah.
I was wondering if maybe you could just give a little bit of.
So I'm not letting any cat out of the bag to say that we've had a very hard time. We've had a lot of challenges within the business because obviously we've had a lot of COVID restrictions. And if you remember, very early on in this whole process, Italy was hit really, really hard. So they shut down, which meant that a lot of our spin houses had no production at all for 6 weeks. And we've had to manage our way through that process. We are doing a staggered launch for spring summer. So we have some interesting books coming out in February. And then we have the main season. So the main magazine, Mode main magazine, and the brochures, they will be the 1st of March, and that will be with new colors in existing ranges. And then 1st of April, we have something very, very special coming out to you. It's a new concept for Rowan. I'm not going to give too much away, but it's something that I hope that you will like. And we're bringing out a new yarn in that development as well. So we've only got one new yarn coming for spring summer, and that's part of the recognition of just how difficult it is and how difficult it's been for retailers in this time too. You know, we have to support bricks and mortar stores like Kathy to make sure that we supporting them in this season and helping them as much as we can as well. So it's very tricky, and obviously at the moment we're trying to manage autumn winter. So we're developing and knitting for autumn winter in these current restrictions as well. So at the moment we should have done all our photography for autumn winter 22. We haven't done any, and that makes me slightly panicky, but also, you know, we're doing the right thing as a company. We're respecting people's safety. We're following the government guidelines, and you just cannot do that anymore at the moment. So we're hopeful that the UK will be released a little bit more in February, and then we can catch ourselves back up. So absolutely, COVID, Brexit is absolutely having an effect on us, and it actually is something that we hope will settle, and we will get there and get back to time again.
But there will still be a spring magazine, and there will be new.
Oh yeah, everything that you would expect to see from Rowan is absolutely coming. It's just we're launching all of those on the 1st of March and not the 1st of February. That was what I feared, the models. Yeah, it has been hard with models, Barbie, and working with models, but it's just, we've also benefited from it too, because a lot of the models in the UK haven't been traveling. So they haven't been going to South Africa. They haven't come to New York Fashion Week. So we've actually, you know, when we're allowed to shoot, we actually have quite a pool to pull from. And that's really interesting for us as well. So, you know, there's good and bads in everything that is going on. And Kathy has a special deal on at the moment too. Michael's saying.
Yes, Kathy, would you like to tell us a little bit about the special deal you're running on their website?
Yes, so all of the yarns that were talked about today are 20% off through the end of January. And it is an automatic discount when you go onto the website under the yarn tasting collections. Those items should automatically discount for you when you put it in your shopping cart.
That's great.
Yeah, fantastic deal.
And also we've got, I'm just going to give a little tease to stay tuned to social media because we have something special coming up in February.
Ooh.
Ooh, I didn't even know about that one.
I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it yet, am I, Michael?
That's a Jan question. I'm, you know.
Oh, sidestep.
Yeah, well, he did confirm, right?
He did confirm.
Did he confirm a date and time?
Yes.
Okay, I think you can say it. He is a man of his word.
So we will be doing another Zoom in February on the 10th with Martin Story. And he will be discussing his new collection and the Moordale yarn.
Yeah.
My second favorite British man, but
nice save there.
Behind you, David. Yeah.
So Martin is somebody that I've worked with at Rowan since I started. And Martin is, you know, I was talking about the knit world being a joy. Martin is one of those joys. He is a beautiful, soft-spoken, fantastic designer. And he's charming. He's just a real joy to work with. He's never a problem and always delivers. And I think you can spot Martin Story designs from a mile because he's just a pleasure to be around. He's a very, very nice man. So by all means, do join that Zoom call with Kathy because you'll get an insight into a really nice designer.
Yeah, and he's not, we use Martin very selectively because he does do so much design work for Rowan. He's kind of a luminary in my view, and so this will be a really very special appearance. So not to be missed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Martin's
he's
story is Rowan. Yes.
yeah, he doesn't. Can I just say he doesn't do an awful lot of these. He's pulling
No.
back from these now.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a coup that Kathy's managed to get him. So
Right, and so the Martin will be talking more about Moordale, which has new colors, new design, which launches January 18th. You'll see that on Kathy's site, so if you want to get a little sneaky peek of those, in about 5 days, those will be up there. And then we'll have this great event in January. We'll really talk about all of his experience and, lead us through some of the design process for that book and show off some of the garments. It's going to be really, really exceptional.
yeah, so
He
new
might give
color
a sneak-
palette.
He might give
Yeah.
a sneaky peek on a few spring summer garments. Is
He might.
that allowed, David?
Well, I couldn't possibly comment what Martin's asked for, so.
Well, stay tuned, everybody.
So the Moordale, he's actually done a full color palette for us as well, and it's all Martin. He was involved in the development of the color. He was involved in development of the yarn. Moordale is one of those classic Rowan where we have people involved from the beginning all the way through. Oh, the app is not available in Houston,
Strange.
Texas. How strange.
Yes, I went to to your website and clicked
Yep.
on the button for it, and it comes up with that message. So maybe that's something y'all could look into.
Oh,
It should be available across the US. I'm not aware of certain states not allowing it. So
Yeah, we'll look into
very
that.
strange.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look into that and definitely post about it on social media with a link to it in the store and figure out what's going on there.
Okay. I'm glad to hear you love Moordale. It's one of my favorites too. But if I was forced for a favorite, absolutely had to name it. My current favorite is Soft Yak DK. I just love it. So Kathy, there was a question about, do you sell the yarn through the website to get discount?
No, it's available in store as well. So yes, Tracy can come and shop.
Good.
well, good.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
I hope you've enjoyed it. I thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I hope I've given you a little insight into what we do and how we do what we do. If you do have any questions after the fact or you want clarification on any point, I'm happy to give you that. If you just feed it through Kathy or through the Kathy's Facebook page, we get that information back to you. I don't believe in silly questions. There are only silly answers. So you ask your silly questions because there's no such thing as I'm happy to find out. If I don't know, I will find it out for you.
Thank you, David. It was lovely having you with us today.
Thank you. Oh, he's coming to say goodbye, I think. Come on, then.
Thank you so much. It's a real treat.
There he goes. But Jasper's come to say goodbye, everybody.
Always welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.